It's the beginning of the end of the impeachment trial as House managers and Donald Trump's attorneys make their closing arguments before the Senate.
The key conclusion, we believe the only conclusion, based on the evidence and based on the articles of impeachment themselves and the Constitution, is that you must vote to acquit the president.
Donald Trump has betrayed his oath to protect and defend the Constitution. But it is not too late for us to honor ours, to wield our power to defend our democracy.
The evidence was presented to you is damning, chilling, disturbing, and disgraceful.
But ahead of an expected Wednesday vote acquitting the president, it's the evidence that wasn't presented that's now casting a shadow over the third presidential impeachment in U.S. history. As Senate Minority Whip Dick Durbin put it on Twitter today, the American people wanted the truth, and rushing to an ending without witnesses or documents, the Senate is failing them. But Senate Republicans aren't the only ones failing the people. As candidates make their own closing arguments in Iowa, the Democratic National Committee appears to be playing favorites. First, by changing the rules that qualify for the upcoming debate in Nevada next week. Come on down, Mike Bloomberg. The DNC is also floating another rule change that could affect who gets the nomination. According to Politico, about a half dozen committee members have discussed the possibility of a policy reversal to ensure that so-called superdelegates can vote on the first ballot at the party's national convention in a clear move to stop Bernie Sanders, just as the Vermont senator catches up to frontrunner Joe Biden with a statistical tie to new NBC Washington Post poll. Apparently, all rules are made to be broken. Joining me are Nancy Gertner, retired federal judge and senior lecturer at Harvard Law School. Nice to see you, Judge.
Good to be
here. And Bernie Sanders supporter Nadeem Mazen, former Cambridge City councilor, founder of Fabric, a new social networking platform focused on protecting user data, privacy, and choice. Good to see you, Nadeem. Thanks so much for being here.
Thanks.
Peter Baker, Judge, wrote in the New York Times, he quoted Ralph Waldo Emerson yesterday, "When you strike at a king, you must kill him." The Democrats obviously didn't, quote, kill the president. After he's acquitted 2 days from now, what's the impact on Trump, future presidents, and on impeachment itself, do you think?
Well, we've already seen that when Trump was told, for example, that there was no way of enforcing the rule against conflicts of interest, he clearly believed conflict of interests are fine. When he's told that we can't prosecute you for Russian interference because of the Office of Legal Counsel position that you can't prosecute a president, he clearly believed it's fine. The day after the Mueller report, he's doing it with Ukraine.
The day, we should admit that, the day after Mueller testifies,
right.
He calls Zelensky on the phone.
But it's even worse than that. The Republicans' defense was, first, the process wasn't good. Okay, so that's in the category of, you didn't do it right. Doesn't mean that it was right to do. By the time they got to Alan Dershowitz on the last day, it was right to do. Anything the president does in the service of being reelected can't be the subject of impeachment. What planet are they on?
He said he was misquoted, even though it was on tape. It's
right,
exactly
right.
what he said.
But that...
And you've known him forever,
yes,
I should say.
But that's not just saying, hey, you're going to get away with it, leaving him then to do it. That's saying it's right to do.
I'm going to talk about this precedent thing because it is very likely that come Wednesday, when this acquittal vote happens, it's not just unanimous or virtually unanimous amongst Republicans. It's fairly likely there's going to be 1, 2, 3 Democrats in there. Doug Jones from Alabama, maybe Joe Manchin, who's now calling for censure, from West Virginia. The ability to call it bipartisan, it seems to me, almost turbocharges the boldness that the president's going to feel. No? Why are you shaking your head?
I mean, maybe, but for me, Trump's pathological success in electioneering comes down to one thing. He uses any venue he can to change the narrative and make it a venue for him, or even better, allow progressives and Democrats to broadcast his message and outrage. So today at the trial, we saw him and his lawyers, through his lawyers, placing campaign ads on the floor, in the record, with music and all this stuff. Totally unprecedented in the history of Senate trials. So for me, when I look at all of this stuff, how they frame it, how they spin it, how they micro-target it on social media, and how they do their persuasion, I see them as very successful. But to your original question, what should Democrats do? Did Democrats strike at a king correctly? Democrats have to win this war of attrition by being persistent and consistent, doing the best they can, and then showing up at every single venue with the correct tone and the correct content.
I'm going to talk to you about Lamar Alexander, who is perceived to be, retiring senator from Tennessee, one of the possible votes for witnesses. He ultimately didn't. He repeated his basic argument when he was with Chuck Todd on Meet the Press on Sunday. Here's Senator Alexander.
I think he shouldn't have done it. I think it was wrong. Inappropriate was the way I'd say improper, crossing the line. And then the only question left is, who decides what to do about that?
Well, who decides what to do about that?
The people is my conclusion.
Even if you don't like his conclusion, isn't that okay to say it was inappropriate behavior? He said, actually, in his original statement, the Democrats have, quote, proven their case, but I don't think the appropriate punishment, sort of like what you used to do in the old days. The facts are established. Here's what I deem to be. He did what you did, no?
That is a fair debate. I come out on the other side of it.
I know you do.
I mean, that's the way that's the way it was characterized initially. This just doesn't rise to the level of impeachable offense. It's hard to imagine what would, but at least it's saying that it's wrong. What I'm saying is the Republicans have now slid to a, hey, no problem, back to sort of the Mulvaney quote. We did this, we'll do it again, get over it. That's a whole different issue.
What do you think about the Alexander thing?
I have a little bit of a different stance. I think that this authority and this responsibility lies with the Senate for a reason. When the president is inviting election interference, he's undermining the people's ability to make a sound choice at the very basic level of voting machines and illegal campaign contributions. So this is why this power has been vested in the Senate, so that they can come in and say, when we see these things happening, in order to protect the republic, we will act judiciously and rapidly.
I want to step back for a second. I am one of these people, even when I was a lot younger, who would worry about what the first paragraph in my obituary was. And I'm serious, I'd never have the kind of responsibility that these 53 Republicans do. Do you know a guy, Ryan Goodman, who's a law professor at NYU? He did this fabulous thing. He went back and he researched the obituaries of every House member of the Judiciary Committee during Nixon, including some who voted for impeachment to move ahead, some against it. Every single one, 17 out of 17, their vote on impeachment, whether for or against, was either in the title or in the first paragraph of this thing. Why do these people apparently not care about the legacy issue?
Well, I mean, the legacy issue is one thing, and they should care about that. The more issue is really what this emboldens him to do. It's not like he will be chastened. He wasn't chastened by the Mueller report, which was sort of dodging a bullet.
Yeah, but the alternative is to be emboldened to attack them, which is what they fear, is it not?
Well, but emboldened to do stuff like Ukraine, emboldened to turn sort of American foreign policy into his personal piggy bank. I mean, the only hope in that is that he will be so off the wall that somebody will finally do something about it. But Nadeem's point is right that, if he gets reelected, it will ratify this conduct.
I want to be clear up front so I don't get angry email. The thing I want to talk about next is I'm not trying to create an equivalency. I'm not suggesting that high crimes and misdemeanors and manipulation by the Democratic National Committee are on the same level. However, when candidates of color talked about how unfair the nominating system was, because the first two states where you had to do fairly well in the polls are two of the whitest states in America, the DNC said the rules are the rules, we're not going to change them. Mike Bloomberg gets involved. The DNC apparently is worried that your guy, Bernie Sanders, is going to get this nomination. So lo and behold, the rules are changed. So the Bloomberg will likely be on the debate stage, the next debate stage after New Hampshire. What's your reaction to this?
I think we know that both parties have behaved throughout history in expeditious ways for whoever is in power. And in this case, in the last couple of elections, that's whoever's superdelegates, whoever's at the head of the party, whoever's in.
They're thinking of re-empowering superdelegates too.
I mean,
to hurt Sanders. But go ahead.
Which is bananas. But I think right now what we're talking about with the Sanders candidacy is upending that system so that things like finally innovating on the order of caucuses, or thinking about even how we vote or how we talk about the election process could be on the table. I believe that a Sanders presidency, a Sanders candidacy, and then a Sanders presidency will lend some credence to the people who say the way we've done it forever isn't fair, and it's not just to say that we've always done it this way.
It's not just the DNC, by the way, that seems to be troubled by a Sanders candidacy. There's a friend of yours who was a little upset about it, too. The woman who ran for president in 2016.
Oh, my.
Here is Hillary Clinton, and they are It's fair to say friends.
Friends, yes.
Friends. Here is Hillary Clinton for the second time in 2 weeks. Being critical of the role Bernie Sanders played in 2016. Here it is.
What do you think that he can do, whether he's the nominee or not nominee, to help get to that point of unifying people against Trump?
Well, he can do it, for one. That's not our experience from 2016. Unfortunately, his campaign and his principal supporters were just very difficult and really constantly not just attacking me, but my supporters.
And we know in that Hulu film where excerpts were released a week or so ago, it's going to come out in March. Nobody likes him. He's never accomplished it. What's the game plan here? What's the agenda?
I got lots of answers to that. One is she shouldn't be speaking. What she does is she puts a target on herself for Trump, who keeps on running against her, and she winds up basically inflaming.
So why is she speaking?
Because some people can't be quiet. Because some people can't walk into the sunset.
She's
10 seconds.
She's frustrated, but she's also wrong, right? Countless articles now talking about how the man was effective, how the man is liked, and how the man is...
Well, she's actually not wrong about what happened after she was nominated, because I was at the
Incidentally,
convention.
his base is very diverse, it's growing, and it's representative of the country that we want to see.
No, but it is true that he was not helpful after she became the nominee.
But she shouldn't say it.
But she shouldn't say
now.
a word.
We got to go. Nadeem, it's great to see you. Thanks so much, Judge. Pleasure, as always. Thanks so much.